It's Pete from Cheap Homesteading, and the weather's getting colder, and I have to go out to the organic farm and make sure that the hives are heavy enough. So I'm going to put out a feeder, an open feeder, and just make sure that they have enough honey to make the winter. My thoughts on feeding bees is don't do it, but there is certain points you just have to. I'm not going to let them die. This year in the spring I had massive losses and I had to get my numbers back, and it limits the amount that they can build up for the winter. These hives I'm going to check, I didn't take any honey off at all, so it's not that I took too much honey off. I just have to make sure that they have a little bit of a top up before winter. But cheap homesteading style, I left my feeders in my bee yard here, and the sun beat it on them, and the pails are all brittle in 1 year. So I have to whip up a very quick bee feeder. So let's go. Okay, so basically you want to get as close to the bottom edge as you can. And you just keep making a bunch of holes along the rib. This is where the sugar syrup will come out. The reason the whole bucket doesn't empty is because it's got suction, because there's a bit of surface tension here. So when this fills up, it can actually hold the amount of syrup in the bucket. But you want to make sure you have lots of holes, because if some plug up or whatever, you want to make sure there's lots of holes. You can see that there's little holes all the way around the lip. So when you put the lid on, this area will fill up with syrup. Better than me talk about it, let's go out and use it. So there you go, here's the hives. A lot of them are pretty light. So I'm hoping I can get them up to weight in the next couple of weeks before it gets too cold. I should have brought a little bench. You want to put your feeder a little bit off the ground, and ideally you don't want to use a beehive because you kind of associated beehives with honey. But I'm going to stack 2 boxes and then put it on top, I think. This was actually a hive that I don't know what happened. The queen just basically disappeared on it. It was doing really well and then it just disappeared. The reason you want it a little bit off the ground is to make sure to make it a little bit harder for a raccoon just to stumble across it. Raccoons can climb, but let's not make it easier for them than it is. You snap the lid on tight, and all you do is tip it up like this. So make sure it's a pretty flat surface. You are going to get a bit of run out until there is suction built here. So that's what's going to happen. You're going to have syrup that's just dripping out that side, but it isn't level, so I'm going to try to jam something under this side. Okay, the feeder's on. It's already starting to slow down. Eventually it'll come to a stop, and then once the bees find it, they'll take it from there. Thoughts on feeding, especially open feeding, I don't recommend it. But in some ways, it is the fastest way to feed bees, because you put it out there, it's a whole pail of syrup. You're not coming back filling up all the time. My other place, I have to go and fill the jars, and that's every couple days. So Monday is a holiday for us, so I'm going to come out and we're going to check, and hopefully the bees are buzzing around and we're going to have some action after they find it. So you guys have a good one. So there you go. They are loving it.